Abdu'l-Baha was invited to speak before the 18th annual Lake Mohonk Conference on International Arbitration held at Mohonk Mountain House, a beautiful mountaintop resort on a small, forest-fringed jewel-like lake, Mohonk Lake, in southern New York. Many influential people attended these conferences. He ended his talk by saying, "It is the Holy Spirit of God which ensures the safety of humanity, for human thoughts differ, human susceptibilities differ. You cannot make the susceptibilities of all humanity one except through the common channel of the Holy Spirit." He was heartily applauded, but was too tired to continue speaking. The day before he was to leave, Abdu'l-Baha decided he would like to present the president of the conference with a choice Persian rug, which was, unfortunately, in his flat in New York. Dr. Zia Baghdadi performed the seemingly impossible task of fetching the rug all that distance in one night, and arrived just as Abdu'l-Baha was shaking hands with Mr. Smiley, preparing to leave. Albert Smiley must have been astonished, for he said, "Why, this is just what I have been seeking for many years. You see, we had a Persian rug just like this one, but it was burned in a fire, and ever since my wife has been broken-hearted over it. This will surely make her very happy." As far as the author is aware, the rug is still in use in Mountain House. Abdu'l-Baha would refuse generous sums of money meant for himself, but would accept a small token of love, such as a handkerchief. In London, a lady said to the master, "I have here a check from a friend who begs its acceptance to buy a good motor car for your work in England and Europe." To this, Abdu'l-Baha replied, "I accept with grateful thanks the gift of your friend." He took the check into both his hands, as though blessing it, and said, "I return it to be used for gifts to the poor." On another occasion, an American lady wished to donate money to the master, for his own use or for that of the cause. He replied that he could not himself accept a gift from her, but that if she wished to do something for him, she should educate the 2 little girls of a Christian schoolmaster in Haifa, who had recently lost his wife, was very poor, and in much trouble. She accordingly sent these children to a school in Beirut. The Baha'is in America desired to contribute $18,000 for the master's projected trip to their shores. When the funds began to reach the master, he returned them, asking that they donate the money instead to charity. When Abdu'l-Baha first arrived in England, he was the guest of a friend in a village not far from London. The evident poverty around him in this wealthy country distressed him greatly. He would walk out in the town, garbed in his white turban and long Persian coat, and all eyes were centered upon the strange visitor who, the people had been told, was a holy man from the East. Naturally, the children were attracted to him, followed him, pulled at his coat or his hand, and were immediately taken into his arms and caressed. This delighted them, of course, and children are never afraid of Abdu'l-Baha. But what pleased and amazed them still more was that when they were put down, they found in their little hands a shilling or 6 pence from the capacious pockets of the holy man's long coat. Such bits of silver were a rarity in their experience, and they ran home with joy to tell the tale of the generous stranger from the Orient, possessed apparently of an endless store of shining 6 pences. The children crowded after him, and so many 6 pences were dispensed that the friend who entertained Abdu'l-Baha became alarmed and talked the matter over with Miss Robarts, who was also a guest in the house. "It is a shame," they said indignantly. "He comes to us accepting nothing and is giving to our people all the time. It must not go on." That day, Abdu'l-Baha had bestowed many sixpences, and people had come from the neighboring villages, bringing their children to receive the blessings from the holy man and, of course, the sixpences. About 9 o'clock in the evening, the ladies decided that no one else must see Abdu'l-Baha that night. But as they waited outside the cottage, a man came up the path, carrying one baby, and with others clinging to him. When he asked for the holy man, however, he was told severely that he could not be seen. He was very tired and had gone to bed. The man sighed as he said, "Oh, I have walked 6 miles from far away to see him. I am so sorry." The hostess responded severely, feeling that the desire for sixpences had prompted the journey perhaps more than religious enthusiasm. And the man sighed more deeply than ever and was turning away, when suddenly Abdu'l-Baha came around the corner of the house. The way in which he embraced the man and all the babies was so wonderful that the hearts of the 2 careful friends melted within them. And when he at last sent away the unbidden guests, comforted, their hearts full of joy, their hands bursting with sixpences, the 2 friends looked at one another and said, "How wrong we were! We will never again try to manage Abdu'l-Baha." For Abdu'l-Baha, inexpensive clothes were sufficient. One day, he was to entertain the governor of Akka. His wife felt that his coat was hardly worthy of the occasion. Well ahead of time, she went to the tailor, where she ordered a fine coat, thinking that, with his lack of self-consciousness, he would surely not notice that his old coat was missing. He desired, after all, only to be scrupulously clean. The new garment was laid out at the proper time, but the master went searching for his own coat. He asked for it, insisting that the one laid out was not his. His wife attempted to explain the new coat, but he would have none of it, and he told her why. "But think of this. For the price of this coat you can buy 5 such as I ordinarily use. And do you think I would spend so much money upon a coat which only I shall wear? If you think I need a new one, very well. But send this back and have the tailor make me, for this price, 5 such as I usually have. Then, you see, I shall not only have a new one, but I shall also have 4 to give to others." Cloak and coat stories pertaining to Abdu'l-Baha are numerous. Once, before the master's wife went on a journey, she left a second cloak for Abdu'l-Baha with one of their daughters, for she feared he would give his away and be caught without one in her absence. The daughter was not to tell her father about the second cloak, but, amazingly, the master soon asked his daughter if he had another cloak, so the truth had to be told. As was to be expected, he replied, "How could I be happy having 2 cloaks, knowing that there are those that have none?" He gave the second one away. At one time, the master had a fine cloak of Persian wool, which had been given to him. When a poor man appealed to him for a garment, he sent for this cloak and gave it to him. The man took it but complained, saying it was only of cotton. "No," Abbas Effendi assured him, "it is of wool," and to prove it, he lighted a match and burned a little of the nap. The man still grumbled that it was not good. Abbas Effendi reproved him for criticizing a gift, but he ended the interview by directing an attendant to give the man a mejidi, a coin then worth about 4 francs. It was observed that if someone vexed the master, he always gave him a gift. Major Wellesley Tudor-Pole wrote in his diary in 1918, at the time of his visit to the master, "I gave him the Persian camel hair cloak, and it greatly pleased him, for the winter is here, and he had given away the only cloak he possessed. I made him promise to keep this one through the winter anyway, and I trust he does. Before a winter's cold took hold of Akka, the master would go to a clothing shop where he would arrange that a number of the poor should come to receive their annual cloaks. He would adjust the garments over some of those poor shoulders. He gave where he felt it was merited and kept a record of the recipients. He did not wish to be abused, but even abuse was known to receive kindness at his generous hands, as has been shown. Small wonder that the Arabs called him the Lord of Generosity, and Baha'is became ablaze by observing his actions of continuing kindness and loved him as the servant of God. Mary Lucas, a pilgrim to Akka in 1905, found that the master gave away all the many gifts which were sent to him. A story is told of a beautiful silver service which was presented to him, and he did not even look at it. One and another received portions of it until piece by piece it disappeared. A significant incident is that of a wealthy woman who offered him a sum of money before she left Akka. He refused to accept it, and as the lady pleaded for the privilege of placing it in his hands, he said at length, "I never accept anything for myself, but if you wish, you may bestow it upon a poor man for the education of his son." So the money was used for this purpose.